For as long as I've been in the Krunker scene, there has been drama in every single section of the community, whether it is the content creators themselves, the competitive team, all the way down to just the regular viewers and players who jump on the game every day. At some point, someone has interacted with drama in some way, shape, or form. But today, I want to go over the top 3 Krunker dramas that have plagued the scene and reveal a drama that has been yet unheard from anybody. This is completely brand new. Nobody's ever talked about this. And in my opinion, it needs to be out there. This is some serious stuff. Before we jump into the really serious stuff, let's have a look at the more lighthearted stuff that really just involve the game and not real world things, potentially even the lore. Starting at number 3, we have Kashy's casino map. So this happened about a year ago. Kashy released his own custom map, and it was a casino map where you would go in, you'd bet some KR, and you'd have a percentage chance of maybe winning that KR back. Now, this was a pretty straightforward drama. It was a pretty straightforward scandal. You'd go into the casino, you'd go and bet your KR, but what you'd find is the odds that were placed on the wall, if they were 40%, let's say, chance to win your KR back, were actually wrong. It was revealed from Techie and numerous other people like Mr. Epic KR that the odds are actually 10% off. So if it said 40%, you actually had a 30% chance to win. If it said 50%, you actually had a 40% chance to win, and so on and so forth. When Kashy first released the map, there was no indication that this would have been the case. He himself didn't really understand how the map worked, and it was revealed that he actually paid someone else to create the map for him. Within the 24 hours that the map was up, Kashy had amassed 300,000 KR in his brand new map. Now, that means that he had amassed a 500 USD real world value directly into his account due to other people not understanding the odds that they were playing with. When Kashy came out and all of this was revealed, he had lost his partner privileges upon the revelation that the map was essentially a scam. Kashy came forward and basically said he didn't know that that was happening and it was all a mistake. And at the time, the community was pretty angry and pretty divided on Kashy and were pretty much against him at the time. But however, since then, I think Kashy's proved his innocence in all of that drama and shown people that he really didn't know, and he's turned out to be a pretty good guy. He's really never done anything wrong ever since then. He hasn't kicked a hornet's nest, and he's been absolutely dedicated to the Krunker scene and Krunker content creation as a whole ever since the incident. Following on from Kashy, that was a pretty light-hearted drama, but this next one is a little bit more serious, and it involves Strems, who was arguably the biggest content creator for Krunker at the time. His YouTube videos were pulling numbers, his streams were pulling numbers, he had the highest sub count in all of Krunker, and he put in the most amount of time and effort into Krunker as well. He was all over the place. It's safe to say that at the time, he was also the face of Krunker. People either loved or hated Strems. Now, there's a lot of stuff that Strems actually did, and there's a lot of stuff he didn't do, but here are some of the allegations that were levied against him during his time as a Krunker content creator before copping his first ban from the game. There was allegations that he was boosting to get a nuke tamer by joining Australian lobbies or other, lower tier lobbies that didn't have a lot of players on them, and using his perms at the time as a KPD officer to kick people out of the lobbies who were doing too well against him. There were also allegations that he used boosting to get his runner to level 50 and to get the shuriken as well. And then beyond that as well, he also had the rule implemented into Krunker that coin flips were no longer around. And further to that, he also apparently abused his perms yet again when he regained KPD in order to win coin flips in trade lobbies. This eventually led to coin flips being banned from Krunker, at which point he was then stripped of his KPD perms again, never to regain them. Now, there was also the Halloween event drama that occurred when he was accusating the other team in order to win the grand prize, which I think was a pet at the time. But there was a whole lot of drama that came around that whole Halloween event, so much so that even though I was still playing Krunker at the time quite regularly on stream, I pretty much avoided the event at all costs because I just didn't want to be involved with the drama, and it really just made the whole thing not seem fun at the time. Say what you want and believe what you want about all of those allegations. And again, I want to say that they're allegations because through the amount of people that I've spoken to in the last few days around a lot of this old drama, not a lot of proof still exists around it. However, you have to admit he was extremely dedicated to Krunker, and at times it really did seem like he only wanted the best for the game, and he wanted to grow with the game to maybe get to an international presence and become, the next big streamer on Twitch, which I do believe he had the personality to do. He had definitely had the tenacity and the drive to be that big. But if it wasn't for these dramas, I think today we'd see streams with thousands of viewers. But the biggest thing that happened was he was caught selling some of his in-game items for real money. Now, If you don't know much about Krunker TOS, Krunker forbids the sale of items for real money, outside, I guess, the NFT stuff that has been happening recently with the watches all on OpenSea. Now, I'm someone who's gone on record, and I'll say it again, that if it was allowed within the rules, I would happily sell my Frostbite for thousands of dollars. Why wouldn't you? It's an in-game skin worth a lot of money because it's so rare. Strems didn't want to wait, I guess, for the TOS to change, didn't want to wait for the NFT rules, and decided to privately sell a bunch of items for real dollars. Now, I have heard from a few different people that he had other content creators involved as well, some well-known content creators that no longer play the game and no longer really create content in general, but I'm not going to name them just because I couldn't see any proof around that. But there's plenty of proof out there in regards to how much he sold the items for, which items he was selling. A lot of them were apparently unobtainables. Some of them were the items like golden eggs from the original Easter egg event, and you know, little bits, pieces here and there. It seems to me that the general consensus is he made a few $1,000s doing this, which for a kid, basically, a 17-year-old at the time, who probably wasn't working and wasn't making a whole lot from Krunker. Because we're being honest here, the Krunker content creation scene doesn't generate a lot of income for the content creators outside of maybe YouTube. People like Sorable and UCD can generate somewhat decent incomes off of their ad revenue alone on YouTube. But when it comes to streaming in general, the ceiling is pretty low for Krunker. If you have a look at the directory today, you'll see majority of people struggling to break 30 CCV. Those that are breaking that 30 CCV barrier are potentially either being embedded in the game or are coming from another game where they have a bigger following and playing Krunker for very short periods of time. What's more is the audience for Krunker is pretty young demographically speaking, which means there's not a lot of money for them to subscribe or support their favorite streamer. So at the time, you know, it could almost be forgiven that maybe he was going through some financial stuff, maybe he needed a bit of extra spending money, and he had this one thing that he had dedicated hundreds, if not thousands of hours into that he saw he could make a quick profit on. However, at the end of the day, it was still against TOS, so Strems was promptly banned and had his account locked, and that's when Strems decided to disappear from Krunker. He was allowed to make another account, but didn't. He disappeared and started going to what I want to call Krunker copies. You know, other games out there that try to either steal the code from Krunker or steal the idea of Krunker, even just down to the aesthetics. A lot of these games like to try and copy the success that Krunker is made, because behind the scenes, Krunker is worth millions upon millions of dollars. So Strem goes and does that. He plays other games. He plays something like Coco.io, and in his time streaming Krunker, he had also taken a paid sponsorship to stream another game similar to Krunker, which had caused a bit of an issue between him and the devs as well. So he goes off to these other games and he's building a little bit of success on them. But out of the blue, randomly one day, the Krunker devs decide to unban Strems and bring him back into the game. Potentially enough time had passed and they'd had good conversations with him to decide that he had matured enough and he had learned from his past deeds and crimes and whatever you want to call them in order to grow and prosper more as a content creator and as a person. And I'm all for that. I think we should always be willing to give people second chances as long as they haven't committed any serious crimes or anything like that, and allow them back into the scene, especially if they've grown. And for someone his age, I think he's definitely in that realm of being able to mature and move beyond what he did in the past. So they promptly unbanned Strems and they put a big announcement in the Discord and basically tell everyone like, hey, you know, we know this isn't normal. We don't normally do this, but we've decided that he deserves a second chance and we're going to bring him back. So Strems goes and does a return stream, jumps on, he's super excited. And then midway through the stream, within 24 hours, the decision is completely reversed and Krunker decides to relock his account. Now, this was due to an overwhelming response from the community who said, no, this isn't fair. Other people have been banned permanently for this. There's no reason why he, a content creator, should be treated differently. And to be fair, at the time, content creators were getting a rap because they were being treated differently in certain cases, is basically what the community was thinking. Now, as a content creator at the time, I was still being held to all the same standards, all the same rules as the regular player. If I broke TOS, my shit was gone. Basically how it worked. Now, do I agree with him being rebanned again? It's hard to say. There's so much stuff that would have happened behind the scenes that potentially, like I said before, that second chance could be earned by someone, but maybe they decided he hadn't have earned that second chance by that point. We don't know, but either way, Strems was rebanned within 24 hours, and he's never really come back to Krunker ever since. Now, this final drama is huge, it's unheard of, it's really not been discussed, but it's completely widespread in Krunker. It's a really unfortunate one, and it potentially has real-life legal ramifications for what's going on. So essentially, what had happened was in June of this year, 2022, I knew a content creator that I've known for a very long time who streamed Krunker. And I approached that content creator because they had borrowed a certain amount of money from me and they hadn't paid it back. Upon approaching them, they started to give me a lot of reasons to doubt that they were going to be willing to pay me back. Now, I gave them plenty of time and chances to pay it back. You know, they were giving me time frames that they just weren't able to meet themselves. One thing led to another, and they did eventually pay me back, but something felt incredibly off about it. I decided to go with my gut instinct and ask some of the other content creators I know within Krunker, and to my surprise, they had all had a very similar story to tell with this person. It had turned out through all of our revelations and all of our digging that he had borrowed more than 5,000 USD across the board from different Krunker content creators, viewers, mods, or just members of the community. Now, this person had done different things to different people. Some people he had paid back, some people he never paid back, some people he partially paid back. But what we discovered was he was running what is essentially a Ponzi scheme where he would borrow from person A, that person would then want their money back, he would approach person B, and then ask for person B to pay back person A. Now, we never actually told them what that money was for, but through checking the timestamps of each payment and message, we discovered that he was actually getting person B to pay back person A, then person C to pay back person B. So it became this massive pyramid scheme or Ponzi scheme, whatever you want to call it, where people were losing thousands of dollars at a time. Personally, because I viewed this person as a friend, I'd actually let them borrow just over $1,000 USD from myself as well. And when I talked to other people, certain individuals had lent him $2,000 to $3,000. Either way, what he was doing and the reasons he was doing it for were real life scamming, which is a lot worse than scamming people out of their virtual currency. Now, I can't go too in depth into the Ponzi scheme stuff because honestly, it could be its own video. It's a massive topic. I have a lot of receipts and I even have a recorded conversation with the person when I basically confronted them and said, I know what you've been doing. What's your excuse? If you'd like to see that or you think you have more information on that, leave a comment below for this video. I hope you enjoyed this. I know it's something different. This kind of stuff is pretty interesting to me, and I think the community at least deserves to know about it. These are moments of time that were extremely interesting and either brought the community together or separated the community as well. But if you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.